Let's talk about the Supreme Court. So, USAID, as you know, Musk went into USAID, DOGE went into USAID, and basically stopped all payments. And it's about $40 billion or something like that are halted payments. Most of those payments to entities outside the United States. And about $2 billion of those payments are for what the recipients claim are for services already rendered. So this is stuff where they did what the government asked them to do, and the government promised to pay them, and now USAID is not paying them. And a court, a U.S. district judge, basically ordered the administration to promptly release funding to contractors and recipients of grants from the U.S. Agency of International Development and the State Department for their past work, about $2 billion supposedly. The Trump administration appealed this, and this was before the Supreme Court today. So it wasn't a full case. This is just that Trump is asking for the Supreme Court to rule against this judge while the judge reviews the entire USAID program and whether what DOGE is doing there is legit. So all the justices are ruling here is the judge right in demanding the release of this $2 billion to contractors who've already done the work? And the Supreme Court ruled by a 5-4 decision to overrule the judge, not to overrule the judge, to agree with the judge and demand that the payments be released. Now, it's interesting because there was no opinion, at least no opinion of the majority. This was done, it was just ruled with no opinion. Alito did write in opposition to this. But I really don't understand the opposition. I mean, there's a contract here. It seems like there's a contract, right? You ask people to do work for you, and you have to pay them. And you can't just say, no, we're not, we're shutting down USD, so we're never going to pay you, or we're not going to pay you for a few months while we figure out what we want to do with USAID. And these organizations are saying, but wait a minute, we did the work. We have, in a sense, a contract. And the Supreme Court ruled by 5-4, yes, you need to pay them. This was a setback for Trump, but there are going to be a lot of these cases. There are going to be a lot of these cases. By the way, Mark asks, should America have zero tariffs while other nations apply them to us? Yes. What other nations do to their own citizens, how other nations harm their own citizens, if other nations choose to tax their own citizens and abuse their own citizens and destroy their own economies, doesn't mean we should copy them. Tariffs are not a war against us that we have to defend ourselves. Tariffs are harmful to the people who put the tariffs in place. They're a little harmful to us as well, but the answer to them is not to harm ourselves more. The answer to that is, okay, harm yourself, we'll adjust. We have a great economy that can adjust easily to tariffs placed on us by other countries. We should stop being worried about that. Focus on freedom. Generally, general principle, unless we're talking about physical war, the only movement of the government, the only legitimate movement of government, the only legitimate steps that government can take, only legitimate steps government can take are towards more freedom. It's not legitimate for the government to raise taxes. Not legitimate. Tariffs are taxes. It's not legitimate for the government to increase spending. It's not legitimate for government to expand its role in the economy. The CHIP Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, none of those things are legitimate. The only steps that are legitimate are steps that are towards more freedom. To the extent that DOGE is there to literally, actually cut taxes, cut spending, then it's legitimate. It might not be doing it in a good way. And at the end of the day, they have to follow the law. But that's the right direction. To the extent that Trump's tariff raise taxes, impede free trade between Americans and people outside, they're wrong. The national security, I've dealt with this a million times. There is no national security argument for tariffs. None, nada, zero. You want to have more steel production in the United States? Then the government can tell the steel companies, we'll buy from you X capacity. We'll pay you to keep factories available, to have people trained, so that if ever we need extra steel, you'll have the capacity to do it. By the way, Mexico and Canada are not our enemies. So having tariffs on them serves negative. It's harmful to national security because we want to be able to import cheap steel from them. We want to be able to import stuff from them cheaply. By the way, that leaves more money for us to be able to invest in defense. There is zero benefit for national security ever for tariffs. You want to stop the importation because the country you're importing from is an evil country and you might go to war with them, then you boycott them. Boycott them. Free trade is not about both sides. Free trade does not require both sides. I trade with you guys. I go into the, I go and buy, you guys go buy a Tesla. You know, the fact that Tesla's being subsidized by the government, should that impede your willingness to buy the car? I mean, all our auto companies are regulated and subsidized at the same time. No. If a foreign country wants to do damage to their own country, why should that stop you from buying? And remember this. Here's the most important thing about trade. Most important thing about trade is trade is not done between countries. The United States does not import anything from Mexico. Trade is done between individuals. You buy something the Mexicans make. Your dollars flow to some company, some employee in Mexico. The government, and this is the important thing, I'm not for free trade. I'm for individual rights. I'm for the ability of you to trade with whomever you want, unless you trading with them is a national security threat. The government has no business telling me who I can buy stuff from and who I can't. Again, unless there's a national security threat. There is none with Mexico and Canada. If I want to buy stuff from Mexico, why is it Trump's business or Biden's business or any politician's business? Why is it the government's business? And I'm buying legal products. I'm buying stuff I'm allowed to own. I mean, either we are free in this country or we are not free in this country. That's the question. Free trade has nothing to do with this. I believe in free trade because I believe that individuals should be able to buy whatever they want to buy from whoever wants to sell it to them at whatever price the two can negotiate. And the fact that there happens to be a border between them should make absolutely zero difference. It's not the job of the government to secure industry. It's not the job of the government to be fair. It's not the job of the government to protect jobs. It's not the job of the government to manage the economy. It's not the job of the government to tell you, me, and everybody else what we can and cannot buy and from whom we can buy it. Government is there to protect me. I don't need their protection when I'm buying stuff from Mexico or Canada. I really don't. That's it. It's not to protect my job. It's not there to protect my income. It's not there to protect even my standard of living. It's there to protect me physically from violence. That's it. And me buying something from a Canadian does not involve violence. So the government has no business in the transaction. It just has no role to play one way or the other. And it doesn't matter what Canada does to its citizens. Canada might beat up its citizens on a regular basis. It's no excuse for the American government to beat up on its citizens. I got distracted from the Supreme Court because I, don't have that much to say about the Supreme Court, and these points about tariffs need to be nailed down, even if I have been saying them for two decades now. They need to be nailed down. The BS around tariffs is so extensive. Anyway, Supreme Court ruled, as I said, 5-4. Barrett and what's his name, Chief Justice Roberts, with the 3 liberal judges, ruled against the Trump administration. The other 4 conservative judges ruled for the Trump administration. And yeah, I have to comment on this again. Mark says, TSMC just invested in Arizona. TSMC is already in Arizona. It's in Arizona because it wants to be in the United States, not because of Trump and not because of tariffs. And by the way, if anybody should get credit for TSMC being in Arizona, it's Biden. I mean, this is the Trump zombie syndrome. The Trump zombie syndrome. Give credit to Biden. If you're going to give credit to anybody for TSMC being in Arizona, give it to Biden. Don't give it to Trump. Trump will take it, of course. So stop it. Stop this nonsense. It isn't true and it doesn't work. And they're not going to make the most advanced chips in Arizona. TSMC is already investing in the United States because of the CHIP Act, because Biden is subsidizing it. And you hated that, but now because Trump is doing it, God, it's infuriating. And some of these people think they're for freedom. And, this idea that tariffs hurt consumers, no. They hurt consumers, they hurt producers, they hurt manufacturers. Who do you think steel tariffs hurt? Manufacturers of automobiles, washing machines, anybody uses steel. Construction. Who do you think lumber tariffs hurt? Construction. Tariffs hurt the entire economy. Consumers, producers, everybody. And they are anti-freedom. They limit freedom. How can you be for limiting freedom? I can't be. Not unless there's a hot war going on. Hot war going on.